So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to What's Up with WhatsApp. This is the developer show where you get to ask the WhatsApp and the Meta team questions. My name is Ricardo Navarro, and I'm on the business messaging developer community team. Super excited to kick this off. And we have a great first show for all of you. Thank you for joining us. All right, so let's meet our host for today. Start with you, Rashid.
I'm here in sunny Seattle, Washington, and I've been a DA for a long time. Done a lot of stuff in the IoT world, done a lot of stuff in the integration space. But I'm overall very excited to be here representing WhatsApp and a messaging platform that's used by so many billions of people every month. And hopefully I get to answer and go through a lot of your questions and also represent you all developers and what your needs are to the product team and to the WhatsApp team in broad. Dimitri, over to you.
Thank you. I can't top this type of introduction. So I'm Dimitri. I also based in sunny Seattle. It always makes me cry whenever I say it's sunny. It's sunny sometimes though. I'm a lead developer advocate at Meta. I've worked with open source quite a bit, but lately again I've been focusing on WhatsApp as much as I can. You might remember me from the very first webinar we had on building end-to-end experiences with WhatsApp Business Platform, which I encourage you all to go back and watch. So yeah, I'm very excited to be participating in this event today and talking about, again, things that we've done, things that are coming down the pipeline in terms of content to help you developers learn the platform and hopefully take it to the next level with your business. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. And if I could add like a quick little fact about Seattle and sunny Seattle, as a self-proclaimed New Yorker, since that's where I mostly grew up in, Seattle actually has more sunny days on average than New York does. So.
I feel like only folks in Seattle have that fun fact ready to share. Awesome. Well, let's kind of cover what we will discuss today. And we're going to kind of kick off the year by doing a little recap on 2022, which, was a huge year for the team. We'll then go into a little sneak peek as to what's coming up, what's on the roadmap, what are some things that you should be looking out for. And then we'll wrap it up with a community Q&A. We had some awesome questions already submitted during registration. So we'll start with those, but we are monitoring the Q&A widget. So we'll be pulling in some questions as well for Rashid and Dimitri to answer. So, feel free to just drop the questions in as they come up and yeah, we'll get to them. So I'm going to just now hand it over back to Dimitri.
Thank you. So yeah, it indeed was a massive year for us. First, we kicked off the year in May of 2022 with the event called Conversations. We had several breakout tracks. Of course, it was an online event, but that means that we have quite a bit of content available on demand. So we always encourage people to go back and watch it on the Meta for Developers website and also YouTube account. Or you can just go to this link down here or scan the QR code to go directly to watch these developer track sessions. I guess that would be the most appropriate for the audience today, because it's really, again, aiming for the developer audiences where we discussed what the platform is all about, how to enhance your business with WhatsApp Business Platform. Or you can even look at other messaging solutions like using Messenger's API for your business or with Instagram. So you can find all that information that was presented at Conversations. Then later in last year, we released courses on Meta Blueprint. Meta Blueprint is basically a learning platform for folks to learn Meta for Developers platform, including WhatsApp Business Platform and its cloud API hosted by Meta. We've published 5 in-depth courses, and we combine them in what we called collection of courses that you can find, again, a link to that right down here on this slide. You can also, again, scan this QR code to go straight to this collection. And again, we encourage people to go through these courses because it will help you justify using this platform for your business. You can learn how to set it up, how to implement, or even how to troubleshoot. Of course, when we go to production use cases, you might encounter some issues, but hopefully this course guides you through common questions that people face and provide you with some answers. But you can also, use this community, use this forum that we are having right now to ask questions if you have any issues whatsoever while using the WhatsApp Business platform, or you want to share your experiences, your successes too. We also published quite a few blog posts. And again, you can find a link to the blogs. We currently hosting them all on Meta for Developers website, where you can also go again for using the WhatsApp Business platform. So it's all in one place, very convenient. And again, both use the Cloud API, but also learn about it. So you can find blogs there. And as I said, we've published several overview style blogs, but also tutorial type of blogs. So you can, it will guide you step by step how to build end-to-end experiences, how to use message templates. It will guide you through some use cases like e-commerce use case, or going to a bit more complex topics like WhatsApp Business Management API. It will help you interact with your WhatsApp Business accounts using the API, or monitoring your phone numbers or your templates and their status with the API. So all these type of topics is what we're usually covering with these blog posts, and you can find them all in one place. And of course, webinars. As I mentioned before, I've done one of them where we focused on building end-to-end experiences with WhatsApp Business platform, and Rashid did one of the later ones on really diving deeper into using message templates and interactive messages. And what I like the most about virtual format is that all of it is available on demand, in a good quality, as mentioned before. When when you want to watch some particular area what was introduced to you, you can stop the recording, you can watch it again and again, you can see the subtitles if you need them. So it's all in there, and it's available on YouTube channel for Meta for Developers, so you can watch these webinars on demand. So that's really what happened in the last year, and what's coming, and I'm very excited about this. It's the Coursera. We're actually launching a Coursera course currently, and you will be receiving that in your email inbox after this event. But basically, we are right now sharing a pre-enrollment page. And as I mentioned, the Meta Blueprint is one of the ways to learn about the API, the Cloud API, WhatsApp Business platform as a whole. But if you are more of a visual learner, you'd like, video content, and so it guides you through step by step of using the platform, Coursera is the way to go. And so we are launching Coursera. As I mentioned, the pre-enrollment page will make sure that you get notified as soon as it opens. You can see here, it shows the February 1st as the launch date. It's really designed for people who want to implement the APIs for developers. It's developer first. I'm a developer myself, so I try to connect with our students, with yourself. So make sure you go ahead and enroll. You can use this QR code, you can use this link, or you can wait for your email that will be coming up soon. And I'm very excited about this piece of content that's coming your way. And with that, let me give reins to Rashid to talk about what's coming to the WhatsApp Business platform as a whole.
Yeah, hey everyone. So I'm gonna start with a disclaimer that this is what we talk about coming into it is going to be not detailed. It's going to be very high level. It's more for me. It's more about me giving you all guidance as developers for how you plan. There will be an actual launch announcement with the official launch with details, and then you will obviously see the changes that are brought into the version changes of the API. So going into it, I'm going to talk first about what happened, what we launched at first, and notable changes in version 15, which is the current API. Which number one big request that everyone had for a long time were editable message templates. Personally, I'm really excited to be able to see that, to be able to edit those, not in, to just be able to edit them. That was a huge request, and this is across languages as well. We also had a pretty important update as well to the features of the API, which is being the number of messages that you could actually send. We've increased it before from like 250, I believe, to 350, and now we went from 350 to 500. And as we continue to find, process improvements and efficiencies with how our application stack runs, you should be able to see further improvements in throughput. Right now we're at 500, like I said, and you should be able to continually expect that to increase over time. That is definitely the plan. We understand that, there are a lot of customers out there, a lot of users that can be accessible, and certainly for very large enterprises, they might hit that 500 message per second threshold for certain use cases. So we're listening to that, and you should definitely keep an eye out for changes in that over time. The other change that happened that I saw a little bit of like feedback from were webhook retries. We don't actually provide a status for webhooks, like if a webhook is buggy because it's not able to successfully be accepted by the listening service that you have. But we have reduced the retry period from 30 days to 7 days. Really, if you don't have an ACK receiving the webhook entry after 7 days, it kind of makes it pointless to continue retrying, to be perfectly honest with you there, like in terms of SLAs and services running. Anyway, we didn't see a need for it. It was kind of the decision was made to drop that down from 30 to 7 days. So those are some pretty substantial changes that happened in version 15. There are a number of others. And if you want to see the full list of all changes that happened, like I said, there's going to be a press release, but also we keep a change log of the WhatsApp node itself for the Graph API, the Meta Graph API. And you could find that in that link down in the bottom of this presentation here, but also we'll post a link if it's on demand or on YouTube and stuff like that. Now, coming up in version 16, I'm just gonna throw this out there for planning purposes. I can say that I would kind of plan accordingly for like version 15 deprecation cycle changes. So the period of when version 15 is going to be deprecated. Our standard Graph API cycle is 2-year support, where we support the version endpoints for up to 2 years. Version 15 is going to be different from that. And again, you'll find out more details about it later on, but this is something that you all should definitely plan your sprints around a change. What those details are going to be coming up really soon once we launch version 16. If you watched the previous webinar that I did, I talked a lot about error codes and like how to handle errors and stuff like that from the error responses. And one of the things that I mentioned there was to ignore the error subcodes. And it is, I'm going to stress the vitality of and importance of this. Make sure to not use subcodes when you are handling errors, because first of all, currently in version 15, some of the errors don't actually have a subcode, so it's kind of meaningless. You should always use the code, the code parameter, and for human readability, the details parameter, so that you know what the details are actually of that error code. Those are the two parameters. Again, it's code and details and not subcode. So you will see some pretty significant change there to the error responses that you get back. And another hint that I'll give, something that I'm working on and I'm like really excited about, is a very highly requested dev tool that's just going to make lives a lot easier, especially for those of you who are building clients in Node.js, TypeScript. How about this? It starts with an S. But anyway, that's going to be coming pretty soon. And we're going to be releasing it out, and we're going to kind of have like a preview run. Hopefully the community really gets behind it and provides a lot of great feedback. It will be open source, so y'all can send pull requests and use it however you want to, pretty much, depending on the license that we attach to it. But yeah, keep an eye out for that announcement. That's going to be coming soon. I'm very excited about this. Like I said, we're going to have kind of a preview of it, and then eventually we'll go into 1.0 release. So that's coming up in the next coming weeks. And then the last update that I want to talk about is OpenSSL. OpenSSL is a cryptographic library that's used, very, very widely for a number of different security solutions and applications. It was version 3, which was launched in September 2021. So it's been a little while, and 3.1 is actually, they've got a release candidate out already with some pretty big changes as well. But version 3 really kind of changed a lot of things that has a pretty significant implication for how web traffic is handled. The number one impact is going to be that TLS version 1.2 is essentially deprecated now for the support of that library. So pretty much we kind of want to respect that. So you should look for some changes in our APIs as well, reflecting the major change in the industry as OpenSSL 3.0 was launched. And TLS version 1.3 has a lot of additional benefits, because of how it handles the ECC keys for TLS, for establishing TLS. You get heightened security, and it's faster. Additionally, OpenSSL, for those of you who are, need to be FedRAMP compliant or work for federal government, medical cases, et cetera, where hardware modules are important. It actually, OpenSSL 3 Plus actually has FIP support. So for establishing TLS or handling anything with ECC Diffie-Hellman key exchanges, that's all can be done using hardware modules to provide additional layer of security, and security of your actual keys. So anyway, those are some of the major updates that we have for on the product side that, I'm just kind of giving you little hints, winks at. And then you should see official launch announcements coming up soon. And then we're going to kind of go through some of the upcoming blogs that you'll see coming out from us. So we've got actually a couple of questions that came in earlier about some of this when you all submitted your registration forms, and we've actually helped prioritize as well, what blogs we're going to be putting out to help answer some of those questions, not just here in this webinar, but actually like putting together a how-to tutorial on how to accomplish some of these. So we're going to be providing blogs for doing WordPress integrations, Zendesk. So if you have a support system that you need to build an integration with WhatsApp to provide great communication for support for your customers, we've got a blog for that coming up. We've got e-commerce use cases with Shopify and having a Shopify integration there. If you use HubSpot for their CMS, not CMS, CRM use cases, we've got a HubSpot integration coming up, as well as some security blogs are going to be coming out, like, for example, performing webhook signature validation, so that you can basically take that recipe for coming up with the XHub key and applying it to whatever language that you might have and using the appropriate libraries that you need. And this is not an exhaustive list. We're actually going to have even more than these blogs, but I think these are the juicier ones that you all have requested. So yeah, look out for those. There's the QR code right there. Scan it to see, all the blogs that we have published today. And then, follow us later. You'll see links for social. We'll repost them on Twitter and LinkedIn, so you can, get them in real time once they're published. So these blogs are going to be coming up in the next few months.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna kick off our community Q&A. We have a lot of really great questions coming in, and we're gonna start with some of the questions that some of you already submitted, so that we can get to those first. But we are pulling in some of these that come in, so please continue to ask questions. All right, so let's get started. Rashid, we have this question that came in. It was actually one that was pretty common when I was reviewing some of the questions, and some of the questions I've been asked right now. How do I use the WhatsApp business platform without agencies or third parties?
Yeah, so we call this concept of agencies or third parties BSPs, and the way that you can use the WhatsApp business platform is, if you want to use the cloud API, is just go ahead and sign up on Meta for Developers, and you will be able to create a application, and you can go through the blogs that we've written or documentation and literally just use it yourself. There's no restriction. It's free for devs to build things. When you're ready to go into production, you can go into production, and there's like a whole entire workflow for that. But all you need in order to sign up is a Facebook account, because that's what's required to sign up for Meta for Developers. And that's all you need.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. Another question that we got a lot, Dimitri, this one's for you. You kind of covered this already, but it would be good to just as another reminder, where can I find courses on this API?
Yeah, sure. So obviously one that we first launched was is called Meta Blueprint, where we are hosting a collection of 5 in-depth courses focused on WhatsApp business platform. And so I would say that option, Meta Blueprint, is if you are more of a learner who prefers to read through, because it's basically text, it's a reading. But if you are more of a visual learner and you'd like to see the video content that guides you through step by step through a learning journey course series that we're launching in February, and you'll be getting again the pre-enrollment page for, I guess that will be a better approach again if you are a visual learner. So I'd say Coursera and Meta Blueprint if you're looking to learn right now and you like to read for the most part to learn, or if you prefer visual and video content, Coursera, that's coming down the pipeline very soon.
Awesome. All right, the next question, Rashid, gonna toss this over to you. Is a Facebook account needed to use the WhatsApp business platform?
Yeah, so there's a why, and it's a decision that you need to make. If you want to use the cloud API, which is hosted by Meta, you do need to have a Facebook account. If you, for example, want to use some sort of LDAP provider or other identity provider service that you all have, either Active Directory or whatnot, you can also choose the on-premises route. So the answer to that question is, if you want to use the managed cloud API, then yes, you need a Facebook account. If you want to use the on-premises version, no, you don't need a Facebook account.
Rashid, over to you as well. What benefits do we receive as entrepreneurs or as developers with this tool? Really good question here.
Yeah, I mean, this is the answer to this question is there can be a lot, but really the main benefit is the reach of WhatsApp itself. So WhatsApp has over 2 billion monthly active users. And that's a lot of people to be able to communicate with potentially, right? So if you have a startup, enterprise, mid-sized business, what have you, being able to communicate with very rich messaging with users that want to talk with you, regardless of where they are, across a number of different platforms. So for example, let's say they're on mobile. They could use their mobile device. They can use the website should they want to. There are a number of different clients. That is a huge benefit. And now you can attach this to other integration services to really provide very rich messaging, right? So being able to pull context from other services or platforms that you might use, like for example, if you're using Salesforce, to market to your customers, or to be able to manage some of the campaigns that you have, you could actually track and provide all this and do a lot of automation when it comes to communicating with your users, and that's pretty powerful. So I think that's probably the biggest benefit, and that just kind of opens the door to a lot of other possibilities, because the number of integrations and services that you could tie together is technically infinite. It's just about the resources and the time that you want to invest into it, and the creativity that you have for what you want to put together.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to, again, benefits, and again, Rashid did a great job in explaining some of the more practical applications of the cloud API and WhatsApp Business Platform as a whole. But if I were to try to combine them and like summarize, we're usually giving like 4 points to the benefits of the platform. One is what Rashid touched on, the marketing. Again, if you're using some CRM, the customer relations management, a platform like Salesforce or HubSpot or anything else, you can enhance your WhatsApp Business Platform with CRM integration or whatever other integration you might have to, for example, you know that it's an anniversary of a person of your customers coming up. You might send them a message reminding that maybe you bought flowers last year, this coming year, the date is coming up. Maybe it makes sense for you to buy flowers again, or whatever else, whatever other gift they might have in mind. That's marketing. Another major point is selling, right? If you are trying to enhance the experience, and again, what's a business platform? Its core goal is to enhance your customer relation, right? The customer communication. And so for the selling benefit, you can take the customer experience to the next level. Let's say they purchased a ticket to a movie through your website. You can use WhatsApp Business Platform to send them an attachment with the ticket for the event they bought, the event they just decided to go to. So again, it's a selling benefit that helps your business. A third point would be notifications, right? You can keep in touch with your customer. Let's say they were interested in an item on your website. It may be, I don't know, a game or a piece of furniture, whatever else your website might have, and it wasn't available at the time of them searching the web. But now it is available, and they did subscribe to search for this, piece of furniture, and now you're letting them know that it's available. So again, it's this notification benefit. It's the benefit of keeping in touch. And the last benefit I can mention here would be the customer service. Of course, customer service, it's one of the keys of customer satisfaction. And so you can have a way for your users, for your customers to learn about your product. So there can be chatbot, or there can be live ad agent on the other end of your WhatsApp communication with the customer, so they can keep in touch quickly. They can get their questions answered. You can refer them to a frequently asked questions section. So really, these 4 key points of marketing, selling, notification, and a customer service is what we usually highlight as the primary benefit for customers, for the entrepreneurs and businesses.
Rashid, what is the best way to integrate WhatsApp APIs for small scale food business, mainly to automate the process of food ordering and accepting payments over WhatsApp?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to put this into the bucket of e-commerce, right? Because it's about order process and taking payments, same as any other e-commerce store. It's just that you're selling food in this case, I guess. So we actually published a blog specifically walking through how to build a order update system, right? So ordering the food and also like showing the order status and displaying that cycle or that evolution of the actual order itself on in one of our blogs. So definitely check out our blogs. We linked to it before. We might be able to put it somewhere as well. Yeah, definitely read our blog on that. As far as accepting payments goes, there's a couple of different options. There are Meta has a payment service as well that we provide. So if you're using that, we have APIs for payments. Using Meta's payments platform. The other thing you can do is, for example, if you're using let's say Square or some other third-party API for your payments, what you could actually do is, for example, you could use a button. So like you could use message templates, have a little button in there, and then that button, you could use a templatized dynamic URL, which when the user clicks a button, it'll take them to a link, that has all the order payment information that's needed in order to complete the transaction. So, regardless of what third-party payment platform that you might be using, they would all support this process. And so you could have the user get a button in WhatsApp. They click the button to pay, right? Text on it says, pay now. They click it, they get the URL, they get taken to their web browser, and they can complete the order process there. And then once you receive that, your system can then continue the order food tracking and stuff like that. And you could pretty much do all of this in WhatsApp. So hopefully that really briefly answers your question, but definitely check out that blog because it'll have more details. It doesn't have the payments part of it, but I think you'll get the gist of how to do these things once you just get started on that first part of the blog.
This question, Dimitri, what web stack do you need for WhatsApp integration?
As similar to what Rashid just said, we've published a couple of blogs on that topic. Basically, it doesn't really matter what programming language you might choose. It might be, and we did publish an example on sending messages with WhatsApp Business Platform using Python, Java, JavaScript, and so that's kind of covers the core of it, right? And ultimately, what you need for end-to-end integration. And by the way, we also went through this during our first webinar where we went through end-to-end experience with the WhatsApp Business Platform. But basically, you need a way to send messages with the Cloud API, and also need a way to process those messages with webhooks. And so, again, what you need to do is for the Cloud API, you would use the Meta for developers to have an account to host the API for sending messages and message templates. So that basically stays the same for whatever language you use. You have an option to use, again, as I mentioned, any programming language you'd like, Python, JavaScript, PHP, whatever else you'd like to use for sending messages. And the same goes for webhooks. You would need to have, obviously, Meta for developers account to host your webhook, meaning to add the endpoint so it can process and send the correct information, the eventification to the webhook. But the webhook itself, you can write in any language you like. It can, again, be Python, it can be JavaScript. In the example I gave during the webinar, I use JavaScript for both sending messages and JavaScript for receiving and processing them with webhooks. But again, it's whatever you prefer, whatever you're most familiar with. And one of the great things about the Cloud API that we host it for you. So really for you, it's just how you're going to process it. And one of the big things is what Rashid just mentioned about things that might be coming down the pipeline to make this integration a little bit easier for developers. But yeah, right now, it's whatever you prefer the most, whatever you have more expertise in.
And, I would like to also add to it that, while there's the language side of things, when it comes to, let's say, other platform providers or, service providers, like, for example, if you wanted to use cloud services or on-premises, there's no restriction. If you wanted to use a integration platform, there's no restriction, right? These are just graph endpoints. So all they need is an HTTP client and be able to establish TLS to be able to communicate. So there are no restrictions whatsoever. I've even had small microcontrollers make calls to the WhatsApp Cloud API. So it doesn't. There are quite literally no restrictions.
Yeah. So this one came in here during the live chat. We recently had an issue with limits on how many WhatsApp numbers can be registered in the WhatsApp Cloud API. One of our customers that has 4 phone numbers and wants to bring all of them to our platform, but the limit with Cloud API is 2 numbers for us. Is there any way of increasing the maximum quantity of numbers, Rashid? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, so there's like it's a little tricky here, right? Because if you think about the perspective as WhatsApp, right? We want to ensure that we provide the best possible experience for the billions of users that we have, right? And part of that positive experience comes from making sure that the messages that they receive are of the best quality and most relevant to the user so that they want to continue to communicate with them. Typically, what we see with a lot of numbers, for example, is the propensity for people to be able to, let's just call it what it is, spam, right? And that just overall brings the quality of the user base down. And so it's something that, obviously any company would need to try to balance, between providing APIs for third-party integrators and for the user base. So that's the contention that we have. It's not the only one, but it's one of the big ones. When it comes to the limits, I know that previously there were more numbers allowed and we've kind of reduced that. One way that you can actually get more, for example, is to have an account type that's as a BSP and not as a singular company. So if you are a provider of integrations with the Cloud API, that is one way to have additional numbers potentially. But what I am going to do here, and this is kind of the case for all of you. So if you go back one day or later on in this slide, we'll have our Twitter and our LinkedIn. Go ahead and add us, and I will personally, as a advocate for developers, I will go ahead and bring this to the attention of the product management team so they can try to prioritize and maybe reevaluate this. But as it stands currently, it is a 2-person limit, and hopefully my answer on why helps understand why we have the limits. But I think potentially a revisit or figuring out other ways, if this is really important to a lot of our developers out there, maybe this is something that the product team can go ahead and reevaluate. So worthwhile for you all to let me know if this is a real barrier and what your use case is in a message to me.
Yeah. Slide up right now with the social information. I also added my email address on the my name of Zoom. So if you want to connect with Rashid or Dimitri or myself, provide feedback, connect with us. We have a lot of opportunities coming up this year, so please reach out. Happy to help. All right, we still have a few questions here. Can we integrate WhatsApp features with other apps? If yes, how can we integrate WhatsApp with other mobile apps? Rashid.
I actually think that Dimitri actually already answered this very eloquently about the tech stack question. It's right in line with it. So this is a Graph API. It is tech stack agnostic. Your client just needs to be able to make HTTPS requests against our service, and then for the webhooks, you just need to be able to listen to incoming HTTPS requests. So if you've got a mobile app, you just need to have that listener in place and that requester in place. And as long as you have those basic mechanisms and be able to send the appropriate authorization tokens and be able to listen to a JSON payload that comes in, it's really not much more. So for integrating with other mobile apps, HTTPS client. That's the answer.
Awesome. We got different versions of this question. So to Dimitri and Rashid, when are we planning to improve support specifically in the community forum or other channels?
The answer to that is it's coming soon. We're hoping it'll happen this year. When this year, we're not sure, because we want to make sure that not only is it improved, because improved is kind of a big context, right? What are you trying to improve exactly? Time to resolutions, do you want to have an answer before you even get a question? Do you want to be able to route to the right person, etc.? So we want to make sure that it's really able to be improved on multiple dimensions. And in addition to that, we also want to make sure that the community forum is also engaging. And I think that's really important to having a thriving community. And I know Ricardo is working really hard on trying to, dissect all of this and provide a pretty outstanding community experience overall, because the community forums is part of that community experience. And we know that WhatsApp being a messaging platform, it's all about community, right? And whether it's the community of your own customers, you all are part of our community. And so we want to make sure that the experience overall is really good, and the forums is a big part of that. So yes, we are absolutely we are actively looking into planning and going to be executing against improving the overall community experience, which also includes the forums.
Yeah, couldn't have said it any better myself. Again, please reach out if you have any ideas, want to be involved, have feedback, just want to vent about your current experience, want to share what your support has been like. I am all ears. Please reach out. I would love to connect and chat more. All right, so we have about a little less than 10 minutes. Let's try to get some more questions here. How to send custom WhatsApp message to clients via the WhatsApp API using Python. Dimitri.
Yeah, so we again, we mentioned it more or less, but basically we have a blog post about it for the Python, Java, and JavaScript. But basically the same steps. You would go to Meta for developers, make sure you have an account. I would always first recommend, if you ever just trying out the API, try the UI, the user interface we provide for you, so you can see how the messaging experience actually works. Then you will just use the Python to encapsulate and make HTTP requests to messages endpoint, basically on a graph using Graph API, or what we would call basically the Cloud API, which is just a wrapper around the Graph API. But you will use Python to write these executions for HTTP requests, and that's how you will really simply send a text message. It can send a template message as well. You can send interactive messages, and we cover all of that in the blog posts, in the Meta Blueprint, and Coursera that will actually help you see how you can use the platform without actually thinking too much about Python or whatever other language you might be using. All of that is, agnostic. The platform is agnostic of a programming language that you use. But yeah, the actual step-by-step, I would highly recommend going to the blog post to learn how to do that. And there are some code samples there too. I also encourage you all to go to our GitHub repository for. And yeah, that's really kind of a quick overview of how to actually send a text message, or any message for that matter, with the WhatsApp Business Platform.
Yeah, and I mean, we've kind of shared a lot of, like, we've written a blog, or a blog is coming. There's a lot of really great stuff in there. And yes, we will be sharing links to all of these blogs in the recap. And this recording will have the QR codes, the links that you can refer to. So we'll make all of that available. Speaking of blogs, I know that this is a topic specifically, Rashid, how to integrate WhatsApp with other help desks like Zendesk in a way it becomes more easy and not more difficult.
So So we've got a blog coming out for the Zendesk integration. I'm personally not clear on how it becomes more easy and not more difficult. I'm assuming that building the integration between, making it the integration between Zendesk and WhatsApp business platform easier. Hopefully the blog that is going to be coming out soon helps make it easier, because we've got step-by-step instructions on how to actually build this integration for how basically when a message gets written out in Zendesk from the support team, it can be sent over via WhatsApp, and then vice versa with the listener, to be able to listen and post into your Zendesk ticket. So there's a blog on that's coming out, and hopefully that actually makes life a lot easier, because it will take away a lot of the unknown, right? Because unknown is difficult. It'll take away a lot of the unknown on how to build this integration. So my hope is that this blog coming out soon will help. So keep an eye out on that. It'll be posted on the socials on Meta for Developer. I'll repost it, and then just keep an eye out once in a while for what we post on the blogs, and you'll see it.
Hey, what can we expect from the Shopify integration? What will be the user benefit? This is a live question coming in.
Yeah, so the Shopify, so that's one of the blogs that I mentioned, but I think it is essentially like any other e-commerce front end that's out there. It basically is a way, for example, one of the use cases that we covered in the blog is going to be providing order status updates. So, a person completes a order, being able to get transactional messages. So, for example, hey, thanks for purchasing. Here are the order details of what you bought, when to expect it to be shipped, and then providing shipping updates, for example, right? In addition to that, being able to listen to messages that come in from WhatsApp into Shopify. So, for example, being able to actually create an order in Shopify. We actually cover a bit of that in the blog that's going to be coming out. But you can actually apply some of these patterns to any other e-commerce front ends that are out there. Like at the end of the day, these blogs, they are step-by-step guides on how to do things. But I would say that you can apply these general methodologies regardless of what your consumer application is, right? Whether it's Shopify or WordPress or Joomla or whatever. So I think that's like probably one of the big parts to these blogs. Now, when it comes to the user benefit for Shopify, personally, I think one of the big benefits is to be able to get updates on my order status. You can receive notifications through the app itself. Like, for example, if you are a really large, retailer, you've got notifications built in. But if you're a smaller company, but you still want to be able to provide those notifications without actually having your own first-party application, and marketing that application and all this other stuff, you could just use WhatsApp instead, right? So that alleviates a lot of build while still being able to potentially reach billions of users, right? As long as they opt in to having those conversations with you all. So I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits that I see, is just being able to reach a lot of people, pushing notifications to them on a messaging service that they use and they like, and not having to build out that entire platform or that application yourself, and only having to deal with that integration piece. So I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits.
Awesome. So we are coming up at time. Before we wrap up, Rashid, Dimitri, any final thoughts?
One of the questions that I answered was, I think it was the first one, was how do I use for example, the Cloud API, right? And want to reiterate the fact that you can use our managed APIs that are hosted by Meta yourself just by signing up on developers.facebook.com and creating an app in there. You don't need to go through a third party or anyone else to be able to use those APIs. So hopefully that point was made very clear, that there are no restrictions, there are no third parties that you need to go through in order to be able to send messages to your customers. And then, yeah, and I love the engagement, by the way, that I'm seeing in the chat. You know, there are 200 and something questions, 256 questions or more. And that's incredible. Like, this is clearly, I wish I can just sit here and answer all of your questions, but we'll get to it. Hopefully in the fullness of time, we'll be able to answer as many of these questions or just implement them into the product or into our content plan so that they don't even need to be asked and you just have it. So this has been awesome. I'm ecstatic actually about this. Yeah.
Dimitri.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, to double down to that point, all the learning materials and that I would say, spent quite a bit of effort and time developing last year and this coming year is really aiming to empower you, developers. You don't have to go to some other place. Really, we try to give it to you where you are using the platform. So Meta for Developers is where you would find our blogs. We publish in Coursera, where people are going to learn about the platforms and other APIs. So we hope that will really help you take it to the next level with the WhatsApp Business Platform. And we are going to be here for you to answer any follow-up questions that you might have. So thank you for being with us today.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon. Have a great week.
Like what you saw? And want to learn more about building great applications and integrations using WhatsApp Business Platform? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos.